So today's chapter is about how do you actually create capabilities of the organization in ways that you can execute the strategy that you've created. And when we're speaking about capabilities, the key elements that we want to focus on is people, the capabilities in terms of how you combine resources and the core competences that you've created. You might want to also recalibrate and see how these capabilities can be improved from 1 year to next year, and how these capabilities fit into, say, an environmental context, and how does it enable you to compete with whatever is happening right now. So that is what is the capabilities element. And it's just not about people alone. We need to have the right organizational structures, mechanisms in place so that we are sure that everything is working in terms of how we match people, the structure, the systems, and the kind of technologies that we use to serve our own customers. So, the learning objectives for today's class, we gain an understanding of what managers must do to execute strategy successfully. As I was saying, we also will discuss how important it is to focus on our hiring process, that we have the right set of people doing the right job and at the right times. And of course, the importance of training, and how training and lifelong learning and continuous improvement should be integral to an organization's culture. And any organization that doesn't focus on, say, updating employee skills or getting them to use the latest technologies are going to be left behind. So training is a very important element, even in terms of how it's contributing to employees staying ahead and their ability to perform on their current jobs and be prepared for future jobs. But it's also an important element because it's a cost, you know, escalating element. So you don't want to have training which is of no use. When employees get trained, you might want to make sure that they get trained on the right stuff and they can use whatever they're learning in training on their jobs. And retaining the right people, retention is always something that HR and then the organization is looking forward to. So if you're a valuable asset, we would definitely want to retain you. That's the key, because we've invested time and effort and money recruiting you, training you, developing you, and then we just don't want to let you go. That's the key. And understanding that a good strategy execution requires continuously building and upgrading organizations' resources and capabilities. If you look at today's organizations, they are continuously exploring. Uh, as much as they want to exploit new ways of doing things, there are two elements: exploration and exploitation. So you might have certain capabilities you're not exploiting. That could be a problem. You can call it problems with efficiency, and it could be problems with operationalizing something. It's a problem of figuring out what's good for your organization and how do you get it done. That's about exploitation. But if you're not looking for innovative things, or you're not developing new technologies or products or services, then you've stopped exploring as a company. So both the elements are critical for any company to survive and grow. So we're going to discuss that in the third learning objective, where we want to understand how good strategy execution requires that a company continues to build and upgrade their own resources and capabilities. So what was a core competence, say, 3 years or 4 years ago, may not be a core competence. It's not a distinctive, competence, or it doesn't get you that kind of distinctive advantage over your competition. So you might want to actually revisit what you're good at and see if you are required to develop other capabilities for the company. That's the third learning objective. The fourth, we want to gain command of what issues to consider in establishing a strategy supportive organizational structure and organizing the work effort itself. See, implementation requires organization structure. Who does what? Where is the authority? Who takes decisions? Who is supposed to be implementing tasks and activities? How do you gather reports and feedback and data of how much progress you've made? So all that is possible only if you have the right organization structure. It cannot have too many layers because bureaucracy sets in, red tapeism is there, and it will slow everything down. And obviously, communication flow is going to get distorted. It takes a longer time for you to share knowledge, share information. and that could be a huge problem. So having the right structure and making sure the structures are flexible and there's no redundancy or duplication of work, plenty of things. And obviously your structure should match the kind of technology that your company is involved with. I'm just trying to get into the future slides as we discuss the learning objectives. In the last learning objective, the fifth one, become aware of the pros and cons of centralized versus decentralized decision making. And again, this has got to do something with how quick an organization reacts to a particular situation, how prepared are they in a particular scenario. So if you have a centralized organization, maybe it's good in certain sense because you have better control of what's happening. You can transfer core competences across several locations of your company wherever you're operating because you're centralized, and you have better control, better, you have a tab on what's going on. But if you're centralized, maybe you will stifle creativity. You're not delegating authority. Decision making is going to take a long time. And so it slows the organization down. So both, you have advantages as much as you have disadvantages for a centralized structure. So is the case with decentralization. Fair amount of decentralization is good because you give that flexibility. Your operations in other countries and regions clearly understand what customers require. And so they're able to adapt customized products, serve customers better, and they're able to retain them and generate constant revenue flows. So that's possible because of decentralization. But you decentralize too much, maybe you're actually compromising on the quality, you're compromising on service, and you probably cannot have a unified corporate culture, and transference of say technologies or core competences is going to be that much more of a challenge. So that can happen as a disadvantage of too much of decentralized decision making. So we'll discuss all that in detail as we progress. Hopefully I can keep up with the pace, and I want to finish fast. So strategy execution is what we are focused in this particular chapter. As I was saying, it's based on operations. Whenever you want to implement something, that means you have a vision, you have a mission, you have decided what goals you must have, what is that you want to achieve in terms of strategic goals versus financial goals, and then you have a clear strategy, an action plan of what you think might get you to achieve those financial goals or strategic goals. And so once you have the strategy, the key is how do we get it operationalized? And today's chapter is purely focused on operationalizing your action plans. So it's about operations, it's about involving both management of both people and business processes. And it's a job that the whole management team, you cannot say implementation is the job of one individual or few individuals. Everybody at all levels are involved in the implementation process. So that's what it is all about. Can take years longer to develop as a real proficiency than implementing strategy, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of investment and effort. It requires a determined commitment to change, action, and performance. So obviously, everybody should have this sense of urgency. They should have been part of creating the vision, mission, and everybody should have been involved in figuring out what the strategic goals must be for the future. And I think there should have been participation in crafting the strategy itself. So it's a lot of commitment. Once I've been involved in these processes at my own level, I'm committed to action. I'm committed to changing stuff for the right purposes. And I know that the organization requires my kind of input. And so I would want to perform. And I know I'm connected to the big picture. It's not about individuals anymore. It's about teams, departments, and say businesses belonging to the same corporation. So commitment comes in because I've been involved, change because I know the sense of urgency. And if we do not act at all levels, corporate level, business level, functional level, if we do not act, we'll be out of business soon. And also, it means even if you have the best strategies and if you do not operationalize it, if you do not have the right tactics, the right approaches, the right tools and methods and procedures for implementation, you might not get what you want to achieve. So action has to be there. And obviously, I need all the supporting mechanisms to ensure that my performance is up to the mark, and achieving the strategy itself is much easier. So let's go off to the next slide, which is a framework for executing strategy. So we're talking about how we get committed to implementing a strategy. So you have to actually, this is what, say, the School of Management, top management, or the dean does. He creates a long, a structure for implementing the strategy. We have discussions of what has to be achieved, who will do it. So it means there are techniques, there are templates, there are policies which guide action, and the necessary behaviors that have to be initiated so that we start moving forward towards achieving whatever goals we have set for ourselves, following through to get things done. So that's the key. Now, once you say Prabhakar, you need to get this done, there should be a follow-up. Somebody, my boss, has to follow up. My colleagues have to tell me, oh, this was the deliverable that you said you will give, that you will act upon, you and your team. What is the progress? Do you need some assistance? Do you need some help? What has been done? Or should we keep pushing for it? Do you need extra time? So obviously the follow-up is extremely important. And how do you make things happen? I just spoke about the dean here in my case. I think it's leadership. So is the case with all strong companies. Leadership is the key. You got to believe something that you can do. See, managers perhaps do not see the big picture. They do not have an all-encompassing vision. They cannot put the dots together like how leaders could possibly. So leaders actually create a strong vision, and they involve everybody to be part of that vision, where collective aspirations are set free. So that's the key role that leaders are actually, having to look at the future of the company, and they know how to take the company towards which direction the company is headed for, not just for short term, it's for the long term. Now, and then also we require management, because we're speaking about managing resources, managing logistics, making sure it's efficient, you control costs, you're generating enough demand, and obviously you want to make sure that the demand gets translated into sales and revenues, and all that is management. So leadership is the envisioning, creating the strategy, getting the buy-in of your stakeholders, including your own employees, and maybe getting the networks with suppliers, and making sure you have the right strategies to reach out to customers and retain them. That's what a leader does continuously. And he's also exploring opportunities for innovation, make collaborations with other companies, opportunities to network with other organizations, maybe acquisitions. We spoke several times in this class about Google having plenty of acquisitions. I mean, that's what leadership does. They're always looking to expand the kind of technologies that they have access to, the applications that they can develop, the value added features they can offer. So there's plenty of things that leaders have to be doing, and they should be doing, if you want the strategy implementation to succeed. And of course, managing the work of others, supervising activities, implementation of tasks, taking feedback, controlling progress, all that kind of stuff, and all the different functions. You can be a manager in the finance, you could manage accounting in the accounting department, you could manage marketing and your sales effort, you could be into production and operations, you could be into quality control, or you could be a manager in HR. So tasks that are classified into categories, into departments, you need managers. At the top and at different levels, you need leaders. I know that's going to be small, so I'll do this. So the basic tasks of strategy execution process, we'll start with a blue, circle or ellipse at the left. Staff the organization with right people for executing the strategy. You got to have the right people. Otherwise, implementing a strategy is just impossible. I might have the best strategy, but I don't have the people who can implement it, who understand it. So that's the key. That's where we're talking of hiring the right set of people, training them. And so your recruitment process has to be successful. Your training should be customized and sensible. And there should be a transfer of learning from your training itself. So staffing, very important. Build the organization capabilities required for successful strategy and execution. When you say capabilities, that means you're able to combine certain resources that are there at your disposal and create unique abilities for your own company that you become proficient in. So that's the key. You have resources, and resources generally limited, and every organization has their own bunch of resources. Can you combine them in ways? It could be human resource, it could be technology, it could be finance, or it could be your networking, goodwill, all those kind of resources. How do you combine them in ways that you become very good at doing something, manufacturing a product, servicing customers, or having value added features in your product? So the improvements that you can bring in. So you need to be really good at it. A good product, a good service will sell. So the key is, how do you combine your resources, become good at something, so that your products or service that you're having to offer are really of the highest quality. For whatever customers are ready to pay for, do they get the value that they pay for? And do they get more than what they pay for? That's the key. So I'm going to the third one on the right, which is the blue one, which I'm talking about. Establish a strategy, supportive organization structure. If you recall, in your management 370, for example, we spoke about mechanistic structure, organic structure. You could have simple structures, you could have functional departmentation, you could have process departmentation, you could have matrix organizations. So the type of structure that you want to use, there's no one perfect structure fits all. Your organization, if it's small, I think you can keep a very simple structure. As your organizations get large, and your operations very complex, and you operate in several regions and countries, the complexity increases, the number of departments increase. So obviously you need to make sure that you're having right now the right structure that can support strategy implementation. If your structure goes wrong, even the best strategy is going to be failing. So that's the importance of structure. Then I can go to the green ones, allocate sufficient resources to the strategy execution effort. Now, when you ask me to do something, I probably require money, or I probably require some information. I need a team of people who can help me. All these are resources. Maybe I need access to certain customers or databases of customers. So all these are basically resources that people in the organization at different positions in the organization structure should have access to if the implementation has to be successful. And then when you go down, institute policies and procedures that facilitate strategy execution. Trust me, all our action is guided by policy. Suppose we want to say, in this organization, we have a promotion policy. And if I don't understand the policy, how am I going to make sure that I perform in ways that will get me the promotion? So there is a policy for everything, and policies have owners. Suppose I'm in charge, I have a position, I know certain policies for which I'm an owner. Suppose we say uh, admission process. Who's the admissions person? And that person should know what process is there. They're owners of that process. So a student goes there, a prospective student goes to the admissions officer, they can explain, they can tell you the forms to fill, they can show you the link. Say enrollment process, registration process, that's a process, right? So obviously we have policies and processes or procedures that are to be in place. And revisit your policies, revisit your procedures. And if you think some procedures are redundant, some procedures do not make sense, or people are not aware of it, so you can revise the procedures or policies, you communicate the policies and procedures, because policies guide action. You got me. So that's the key in chapter 11, which we will talk about. Adopt best practices and business processes that drive continuous improvement. Again, the green color shows chapter 11, which is the next chapter. So we need to have best practices. So obviously we can compare ourselves with other players in the industry. Suppose NYD wants to compare themselves with, say, Hofstra or Malloy or some other university, and see what they're doing that we are not able to do, that we should be thinking of doing. So those best practices can be taken, customized, changed to suit our students, and then we can offer them. So those are examples of adopting best practices. Install information and operating systems that support strategy, execution, and activities. How many of you think systems are important? Whether it be communication systems, IT-enabled systems, customer relationship management systems, ERP systems. Everything is governed by how good your systems are and how trained your employees are in using those systems. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, can you give an example of how, say, CRM, which is customer relationship management, works? And if you have had good experiences with a company, how they contact you as because they know your database is there with your details. They have contacted you without you having to ask them something, and they've offered you services without you having to say, I need this, because they say, we know it because you came last time around, you were here with us, we have it in our database and we know you like this service. Has it happened to you?
A lot.
Can you share an example?
Uh, it's kind of very techy,
Okay.
but um, I have 4 friends that work at Best Buy,
Hmm.
so they know me and they know that I like certain types of gears in technology. So they'll know that I go into Best Buy. I'm looking at things like camera, drones, and all of these things, but I don't buy them. Why? Because it's expensive.
Right.
So the next time I go in, the first thing they tell me is like, hey, Best Buy, there is a big discount on drones. You want to check it out? It's 40% off. But obviously, they're my friends. They'll be like, uh, you don't have to buy it. You just pay. I pay my friend. My friend will buy it because he has an additional 30% discount because he's a worker there. And he's like 30% on top of the 40%. And I'm like, that's a good deal.
Yeah.
So so I'll be
Probably,
like,
probably you just shared away your advantage with me too. I'm just
yeah.
okay.
So I was just it's like that's one of
That's cool. That's
many.
nice. Yeah. So and that's a classical example where you reached out because they know exactly what your preferences are, tastes are, and what you're looking for. So systems really help, and systems help in everything, including detecting of quality issues, giving early warning systems of maintenance required. There are very high tech implications and uses of technology and systems. So you can go on and on. I know of companies that have sold equipment which is expensive, and they actually get real time feedback on the usage of that equipment. So they can come knocking at your door and say, your equipment requires maintenance before it breaks down, and they'll do it for free. So how good is that? So they're not waiting for your equipment to break down, then you have a problem, you're in your workflow, then you have to make a complaint, and then you have to, there's a waiting time before they come in. No, they're getting real time feedback on the usage of your equipment. So if it's being used like crazy, obviously they exactly know when it is time. It might break down, it might require some replacement of certain elements or components, and they do it. So, when Sam talks about it, it's so much towards customers. And when I'm giving you this example, it's towards the equipment, and obviously it's also customer service. So those are the green things. And then you have the last green on the left side, which is tying rewards and incentives directly to the achievement of strategic and financial targets. Why would employees take that extra bit of effort to implement a new strategy or a change in strategy if there was nothing to incentivize that kind of action? So having to have the right reward systems or compensation mechanisms, that's extremely important for incentivizing action. So implementation requires that employees see the benefit of having to take pains to implement a new strategy, and they know that they're going to get recognized and they're benefited by, say, rewards or whatever it takes. So that's the one part which is also part of chapter 11. In chapter 12, it talks about instilling a corporate culture that promotes good strategy execution. See, most of the organizations that you talk in class every time when we meet for this class are those companies that have very strong pervasive cultures. So for them, innovation is part of their DNA. They don't have to be reminded and told, oh guys, we're innovating, we're trying something new, because they're always looking out for the opportunities. That's because of their culture. It's strong, it's pervasive, and it's very facilitative. It's not debilitating. Sometimes you might have strong cultures which are not positive. Now, but here in these cases, that good corporates that you take as examples in my class, they have strong cultures, and cultures that support innovation, that support customer service, that support technology development. It could be for anything, and maybe even attention to detail, cultures that support attention to detail, because sometimes certain products, it's not about just the technology, it's not just about the features, it's about the attention to detail. How crafty, how good this particular product was designed, how much of care was taken in how well it was put together. So cultures, some cultures are based towards attention to detail. Even say auditing companies, these are cultures which are, they pay close attention to detail. Banks, financial institutions, attention to detail. They do not have margin for error. So as I say, that you can have attention to detail in products that you produce that are expensive, premium quality, and with perhaps limited edition. Attention to detail can come handy for accounting firms, auditing firms, and financial institutions as well. So culture will be discussed in chapter 12. I know I'm giving you a lot. Yeah, that's how I teach. Exercise strong leadership to propel strategy execution forward. I mean, how many times do you find that leaders, for many years, we think they're great leaders, and suddenly we realize they have let the company down? So, however good your strategy might be, implementation is possible only if you have the constant support of your leader. So, leadership, there's no doubt, it's tied up with strategy. If your organization succeeds, like in the case of Apple, right from Steve Jobs to now Tim Cook, leaders actually play a massive role taking the company forward. Microsoft, Google, all these companies, look at their leadership. They've been transformational in the last 5 years. Otherwise, they will be out of business. With the onslaught of competition that they have from global companies, if they still have to keep their position, it's so much to do with leaders, and also the top management, and also the kind of employees, and also the kind of culture, and also the kind of systems, and the freedom and the policies. All those elements are important in implementation. So we're going here, assemble a strong team, management team, and a cadre of capable employees. I spoke about it. There's no substitute for the kind of human capital you have. I've seen so many hospitals, say, for example, in India, great infrastructure, it looks amazing from the outside, but if you have poor quality doctors, they're going to close shop quickly because the word is going to spread. It looks fabulous, but the doctors, the kind of people that will deal with you, that's not good. And that word will destroy whatever infrastructure you built. So obviously it's the quality of people that you have. And obviously you need to do in your recruitment process, hire the right set of people. Your employees need not be good in everything, but they need to be good in what they have to offer for the organization. How do they give the organization a competitive advantage? Those skills are non-negotiable. And it's a good thing if you invest in training and updating those skills. That's also the key. Renew, upgrade, revise resources. It could be technology resources, it could be equipment, whatever that you're using to produce the product, that can be changed. Workflows can be changed. People can be trained. That's all part of the renewal process, upgrading, revising resources. And use your resources judiciously, because resources are always limited. And the last point here on this slide, create an organization structure that is strategy supportive. I think we spoke about it. So we're going back to this slide exactly. So putting together a strong management team, recruiting, retaining talented employees, very important. Building and strengthening core competences. So this is what I've been speaking. It's about how you recognize the resources that you have and how do you combine them in ways that you can better utilize those resources. We spoke about training and how it should be custom based, how it should support transfer of learning. Structure, we spoke about it. I was just mentioning about mechanistic structure and organic structure, the differences between the two, the complexity, the standardization that's involved, and the kind of centralization or decentralization that can be there. Structures are extremely crucial. If you have taken care of these, you have a very good chance that you are able to implement the strategy in a more confident way. Yeah, assemble a strong management team. Again, planners, implementers, executors. You don't have to stick with that definition. If you are aware, I'm sure you are because you took management 102. Mintzberg's managerial roles. So he actually speaks to the different roles that employees can play. So you could be planner, you could be an implementer, you could be executors. I think you need all because there are some people who are good at planning the strategic plan for the next 5 years or 10 years. There are people who can hire the right set of people, they select, manage, and lead. Those are called implementers. See, most of the times we confuse between planners and implementers. Planners might not be good implementers. Can you think of that? Like somebody who plans, who's very good at creating the strategic plan for the next 5 years, could select wrong people, and your plan is going to fail. Your strategies are going to fail because implementers know exactly where to go search for the right set of people. They train them, they develop them, they manage them, and they lead these bunch of people towards implementing that plan. So might be a good idea to ask yourself, am I good in both? If you're a planner, can you also be an implementer? If the answer is no, have somebody else do that for you. Executors who turn decisions into actions. These are the people who are actually at the grassroots level. Suppose when you say customer relationship management, who actually interacts with customers? Your salespeople. Those become executors. And suppose we are creating a new process for production. Your supervisors and workers are your executors. So, for everything that you do in an organization, your team is as strong as your weakest link. So suppose you have a great bunch of planners, a great bunch of implementers, but we have poor executors. Our team is not a strong management team. And suppose we have great implementers, we have great executors, but on the top, planning is all, it's really wayward. It's not giving us a sense of direction. It's not inspiring us. It's not where the organization should be headed to. We're doomed. So you need everybody. You need some planners, you need plenty of implementers, and you need even more number of executors. I like that. But Mintzberg also speaks about other things, like a negotiator, a role that a manager can play, a disturbance handler, a resource allocator, an information disseminator, a spokesperson role, a liaison role. So there are many roles that Henry Mintzberg speaks about. So you can actually Google search as Mintzberg's managerial roles. Very interesting way of looking at what kind of roles managers ought to be playing. So when you recruit a team, when you want to pull together a team for an ambitious implementation of a strategy, you've got to make sure you have the right set of people. We can go here. Recruiting, training, retaining capable employees. I spoke about it. Intensively screen, evaluate applicants. I know of Microsoft doing, I mean it, 7 rounds of interviews, literally 7. So they just want to make 100% sure that they're having the right person. They don't want to be recruiting somebody wrong. So intensively screen, evaluate applicants. That's your recruitment process. Train, and training should be specific to what the job requirements are. It should improve my post-training effectiveness should be measured. Pre-training performance and post-training performance have to be compared. Only then I can say my training program has been effective because I can transfer what I took. And then rotate promising employees through challenging and skill stretching international assignments. Look at the word international assignments. You don't want to keep them in one place, rotate them. Because when you move and move to other countries, other locations of the company, you have exposure, you have the learning, your learning curve is steep, you gain from experience, you gain from people's insights, and you also gain from different cultural inputs that you get from other regions and the challenges that you faced. So it's a great way that you can think of how you want to utilize your human capital. Make the work environment stimulating and engaging so that the firm is considered a great place. That's the cultural element. Use an assortment of incentives or rewards to keep people incentivized and keep them focused and motivated. Coach average performers to improve their skills and capabilities. The last part I think is very important. While weeding out underperformers, you don't want to keep underperformers as performers for too long. You might give them one chance, maybe the second chance, but then that's it. Because you don't see, I think that's how every institution, every company should look at it. I've spoken to, say, MBA students ever since I became the program director, just to figure out how are they feeling about the classes that they take without taking names, because I want to make sure that the overall experience that students are getting is good. It's not about my class or XYZ class. You've taken courses in fall, you took courses in summer, you also took in last spring. How has been your overall experience? I'm not asking pointed questions. Have you learned something? Have you gained something? Can you do something? Can you say that you have some skills after you join the MBA program? I want those questions to be answered because I want to see how we are doing as a whole. And of course, if there are glaring complaints, we need to look into it. Okay, so this is how you can build and strengthen core competencies and competitive capabilities. Implementing strategy will depend on how you look at your own core competencies and capabilities, and how do you strengthen it. You can strengthen it using different approaches, and these are simple, easy ones which we already discussed in previous classes, but it's not a bad thing to revisit them. First, you can do developing of capabilities internally. Can you think of one particular organization and an example where they develop capabilities internally? Could be technology, whatever, software, anything. Developing internal capabilities or capabilities within the organization,
Uh,
in-house. Yeah.
Google.
In what way and which example would fit there for Google?
Um, well, Google is typically known for their softwares, uh, which is more like services. So uh, they can uh, continue to increase their capabilities through uh, not exactly improving or making new versions of Google, but using the same Google, but improving it over and over and over. So I don't know if that's
Yeah, yeah.
in general.
I get what you're saying. It's perhaps continuous improvement, adding features. Yeah, okay. Acquire capabilities through mergers and acquisitions. Google fits there as well because they do a lot of acquisitions, right? They're getting additional capabilities by acquisitions, access capabilities via collaborative partnerships. I think there are plenty of partnerships that happen. The latest one that I see is Lenovo collaborating with LG. And if you see a Lenovo's X1 Fold, which is their latest launch of foldable laptops, have a look at this product. It has an LG screen. Now, LG actually produces what their rollable screens. Maybe I've written this somewhere else, but it's not a bad thing if I write it here. So that's a classical case of collaborative partnerships. Not that every capability that you can develop by yourself, but you might want to collaborate and use LG's, competence in creating rollable screens. And then the technology that they use is called POLED, which is plastic. And you might ask me, what is OLED? It's organic light emitting diode. I know it's not really something that is of interest to us, but that's what it is. So obviously, managerial actions to develop competences and capabilities. You can develop it. You can develop skills and capabilities by managerial action. And how do you do that? You can do it by strengthening the firm's base of skills, training, getting in-house training. You can send people to other places for training as well, or you can rotate them. You can do that. Coordinate and integrate the efforts of work groups and departments. So you can create a lot of committees, including your members of the stakeholders, and you have plenty of opportunities to develop skills by using managerial action. And here is another slide which oh, I have something here. Yeah. So what about Toyota production system, which is makes it so difficult for competitors to imitate? I don't know if you're aware, Toyota uses a lot of uh, technology in making sure that their processes are really good, the manufacturing processes, and that's why they call it as TPS, which also includes just in time. Their production systems use just in time as well. So they're really strong with their production systems, and they're perfected it to the point that other automobile manufacturers will take time and effort and their people to understand how good their production systems are. And if you look at the last bullet point here, why would an Ishikawa fishbone diagram be helpful in solving problems in the TPS? By the way, it's interesting. The fishbone diagram looks like it seems apparently like a fishbone. I don't eat fish, so I really wouldn't know. But anyway, this is the effect that's there or the problem, and you're seeing the causes: C1, C2, C3, C4, C5, C6. These are basically the causes. And that's why it's called the cause effect diagram. And it's an interesting way of looking at how, Toyota is basically looking at all the causes that are creating a problem. And they're not interested in just simply, addressing one cause, but they want to address all the causes because they want to get rid of that problem. If it's a negative effect, they want to get rid of it. And that's what is the fishbone diagram that they use in their production systems. And I also put discrepancy analysis. Suppose if this is the targeted performance that we have, we want to achieve this targeted performance level. And if our company is achieving only this actual performance, this is the actual performance. So our targeted performance is this. That's what we do when we set goals. We want to find out what is causing this gap. That's why we call it as a discrepancy. Is it because of factors which are external to the company, or is it factors that we can resolve? Can we train people so that the performance increases? Can we give in better technology so the performance gets better? Or can we cut down costs so that our performance looks better? Can we reach out to more customers so we get better? Or can we add new products and our performance reaches there? So what all should we be doing so our performance gets closer to our targeted performance? So we're trying to reduce that discrepancy, or we're trying to reduce that gap. We want to find out what are the causes of that gap and how do we address those causes, which is causing that gap basically. So that's called discrepancy analysis. Yeah, here is something that I would want you to also think: setting stretch goals from capability to competence. So you're good at something, but how proficient you are at it. So I think that's clearly a lovely way of putting it. You're good at something, but are you really an expert at it? Now, if I were to ask you, can you give me one thing that you're an expert at? This question is open to all. You're an expert, at least in one thing. You're good in many things, I know. But tell me one thing that you feel comfortable saying, yeah, I'm an expert in here. Don't ask me that question. It's an understanding between you and me. Yeah.
Um, Tech stuff.
What is it?
Knowing, I don't know, like variety of tech um devices. So
Yeah, you are good at that, Sam. Sam's like the tech guru.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. And can you then utilize that expertise either for yourself or for others or for getting a job or for a company? Uh, Sam, I think you should think that way,
hmm,
right? You're an expert. There's no doubt about it. And Melanie's, actually she can actually attest that particular fact. But can you use it, say in a ecosystem for a company, for a business, or whatever it takes? So I think that's the key. So set stretch goals for your employees. That's what you should do, and evolve from having just an ability to making it a competence, and of course, at an acceptable cost. Once you have those competences, it's not enough if you say, I'll become complacent, I don't need any more competences. You need to recalibrate. That's why I use the word recalibrate here. Ask yourself, are those competences still competences? If not, what other new competences should we be creating? Or what competences our competitors are having? That's the key. And how do we develop them? Okay, how do we acquire them if you have to buy it out from somewhere? Or we just don't have the resources. Can we partner with somebody so that we can have sharing of those core competences? You might follow any of those because you want to recalibrate. You're looking at yourself, you're evaluating yourself. That's the key. So I think that every human being should do, every company should do. Yeah, acquisitions, mergers, we spoke several times of Kraft. Why do companies go for acquisitions? Market opportunity. Now, when Kraft actually purchased, Cadbury's, they're having a larger market space. They have access to more markets. A question of competitive necessity. I think these fall there. They want to stay ahead, keep their position. So Google acquires like crazy. Microsoft is acquiring plenty of companies. Qualcomm acquiring MapMy India. The examples that I gave you. A question of successful integration. If you see that you can learn, tacit knowledge and complex routines may not transfer readily from one unit to another, you might acquire that particular capability from someone else. If it's not easy, if it's easily done within the organization, I think the example is 3M, because they have different product lines, they have hundreds of teams working on innovations, and they leverage them across all those product lines. But if you cannot do it within the firm, then acquire, right? So for different reasons, just get the market access. You remember the example that I gave you of UAE Exchange and Travelex, right? Then that can fit in here. So capabilities can be recalibrated, developed internally, or acquired, or through partnerships or collaborations or networking opportunities. I've given that example here also. So accessing capabilities through partnerships, Lenovo, and doing their collaboration with LG's rollable screen. Oppo is about to launch their stretchable flip version of a phone. You can stretch the phone. So apparently it's a small sized phone. You can stretch it up. It's close to launch. I don't know where Apple is heading, because if you look at all these companies that are coming up with kind of innovations, including Xiaomi and Oppo and of course Huawei, and there is Samsung. I'm not sure how Apple is going to head, and maybe they'll come out with their products and they're way better. They're streamlined and they fit into the ecosystem. They don't have those glitches. They don't have costly, expensive recalls. So Apple, steps in late, but they just take over because they're good at what they do. They want to make sure they give the best product, the finished product, a more mature technology. And perhaps all these guys create awareness, market awareness. Apple comes and takes the pie, right? So maybe that's the strategy. Upgrading employee skills and knowledge resources. By the way, I just came to know that Amazon is launching their operations in Vancouver. They're about to create 8,000 jobs. So can anybody please do a certification in AWS? And they're all available there. And you get a job in Vancouver, perhaps as soon as you graduate. And these are available online. Amazon Web Services, it's called as AWS. Does that interest you?
Depends on what the job
Yeah.
offers.
No, get the certification. Those free. Just do it and figure it out, and later on apply. You're already, you perhaps are just thinking too far ahead of yourself. I would think just be prepared, like crazy. Pick and choose what you want once you have the offers in your hand. So, and you have the time, and these AWS is also available for free. I just watched yesterday because when I got this news, I just went on to search for. Coursera has some, EDX has some, other places have AWS, certifications for free. And if you think Amazon is interested in you, there when you claim I have it, of course, then you pay for it and get the certificate just to validate it. That's it. You know that McDonald's has its own university. I just put that example to just tell you how important training is. GE gas power customer training is very extensive. I can actually, at the end of the class, I can show you. Their customer training is intense. The number of courses, the modules, the different areas in customer training, it's very extensive. So training is a great way of improving your capabilities, of ensuring that your team is updated, that they can deliver and implement strategy. Now, superior strategy execution capabilities, it always gets you ahead of time, and it gets you ahead of your competition, and it maximizes the usage of your own resources, and you can lower your costs, and you can react faster to your competition, and that's what gets you there. So executing, implementing strategy before others do it. That's what we call in strategy as first mover advantage, right? So you want to be there first because you're creating that awareness, you're creating the interest, you create the desire among customers. You're making sure customers act on it. And that means they're buying the product, and then you have satisfaction. So it's awareness, interest, desire, action, and satisfaction. I mean, that's what you want to achieve. So you want to be the first there, out there, because awareness and interest. Then you make sure the product is good. The desire should be, the willingness to pay should be there. Eventually, they should buy the product. Give them the technical support. Give them the value-added services. Make that bundle attractive, and show that the product is durable. And obviously, if they're happy, they go back. Word of mouth is positive. More customers will come back to you. Yeah. Organizing the work effect with supportive organization structure. I was telling you that. So you have three elements. One is called as centralization. When I say three elements of an organization structure, the second one is called complexity, and the third one is called standardization. So what are the three things? I'll tell you quickly. This is the decision-making power. Is it in one person, few positions, or others in the organization have the power to take decisions? This can be high, this can be low. Complexity, how complex, whether it's spatial complexity, vertical complexity, whether it's horizontal complexity. That can be complexity. Spatial, are we operating in one country or one continent, or several continents and several countries? Spatial complexity. Vertical, how many layers are there in an organization structure? Horizontal, how many departments do you have? So it can be high, or it can be low, or it can be anywhere in between. It's like a continuum. You got me? And then you have standardization. Can you standardize all the jobs? Can you say what exactly every person should be doing, every job holder must be doing in the company? Or is there flexibility? Cannot define the jobs clearly? Maybe some jobs you can standardize, some jobs you cannot standardize. So I'm not saying you should be all high or all low, but that's the continuum that you have. So basically, if all these three are high, you call that structure as mechanistic structure. If all the three are low, you call this as an organic structure. So that's what is basically what an organization structure is. The three elements: centralization, complexity, and standardization. Sometimes authors refer to standardization as also formalization. So if you see formalization, don't accuse your professor of saying, oh, he was saying standardization, but it should be formalization. It's the same thing. And then we can go after that.
Is it bad to have all high or all low?
No, there is nothing like bad or good. It all depends on, suppose my organization produces as something as simple as a marker pen. I think I can make it very mechanistic. There's I can control everything centralized. I can, make sure the departments are all clearly laid out, the jobs are clearly spelled out. There's no need of flexibility. A mechanistic structure will work. But suppose if my company is in designing something, it's not a normal pen, it's a stylus. Obviously, if it's a stylus, I mean, you need value. I mean, it should have, whatever, touch sensitivity, pressure sensors, and its performance should be great. It should feel like a pencil. There are a lot of electronics involved in it. So obviously you need to be flexible, ensure creativity, innovation. So you can go low on standardization, low on centralization or decentralization. Maybe complexity, it can still be high. So you're moving towards what? Organic structure, where you want flexibility, where you want creativity. If you want to control a simple production process, more mechanistic, because the technology is set. Here, the technologies are changing because there are a lot of design elements going on here, a lot of innovation going on. You cannot make it mechanistic. It has to be organic. Do you get it, Sam?
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay. So outsourcing, deciding which are the value chain activities that you need to perform internally. And what do you think those are? Again, it's simple. Because our resources are limited, if you want to do everything yourself, you're just wasting your resource. Do the core things that you're really good at, that you should be focused on, that gets you competitive advantage. Those value chain activities, do not give it to anybody. Keep them with you. But peripheral activities which do not add to the core competences, which do not distinguish you and make you distinctive from your competition, I think that you can outsource for a much cheaper price, more efficiency of using your own resources. So we talked about structure, like we said, whether it's formal or informal arrangement, how do tasks get done, what's the line of authority, how are we reporting? Because structure is like that. If you want to read something more about structure, you have the Likert linking pin model. He speaks about how an organization structure is like this. You have people here, people here, people here, and you have people, everyone is having more people to work with. That's what we call span of control. You can have more people as you go down, and the spans actually increase. So each is a linking pin. You have people here. So each is a linking pin. So you have people here. That's a linking pin. And then you have, these are linking pins. So you might have formal structures or formal linking pins. You might have informal. This guy here might know the CEO. That's informal. So that's why formal and informal arrangement of tasks and responsibility, lines of authority, who reports to whom. I mean, formally, this guy has to report to him. This guy has to report to her, and she has to report to her, and she has to go then report to her. So that's formal. But then you might have this person report straight to her. It's informal. So again, both formal and informal elements of a structure is possible. But you might want to make sure that your structure matches the kind of technology, matches the kind of leadership, and matches the kind of followers or organizational members. So if you have immature, incapable employees, you want to control them more. You can be flexible. But if you have people who are really capable, responsible, highly qualified, very experienced, no, you decentralize, be flexible, make it more organic. So your leadership style, suppose I'm an autocratic leader, I'll probably prefer a mechanistic structure. But if I'm a participative or democratic leader, I might prefer an organic structure. If it's simple mass production of something simple, I might use a mechanistic structure, the technology. But if my technology, like Airbus or Boeing, every aircraft has to be designed separately. There needs a lot of organic structure qualities because it's very flexible. So the structure depends on technology, that should match with leadership and should match with employees that you have, their maturity levels. Again, we spoke about this in Management 102, simple structures, functional departmentation, and then multi-divisional structures and matrix organization. So simple, you understand line and staff function, which is there. Functional, you could have a structure which goes basically on different function, say finance, production and operations management, marketing management, HR, IT, and whatever. You can go on and on. That's basically purely functional. Multi-divisional, say GE is here. So GE can go with a separate structure for their gas operations, for their medical equipment, GE Capital, or other businesses, GE Plastics. It could be anything. So those are multi-divisional because each division has its own business, own products, own operations, own set of challenges. Again, these can go functional. Again, it's up to you. You can combine. So, and the matrix organization is for projects. If you have HR department, you have the finance, you have the production, and you have, say, marketing. We have project one, project two, project three. We can go this way. So we have one HR department. They're working on first project. They also work on the second project. They also work on the third project. We have finance department. They also will take care of the financing of three projects. We have the production, one production department. They also take care of the three projects, which are there in three different countries. Marketing and sales, they take care of marketing, the three projects. They're working with clients in three different projects. That's a matrix organization. Is that clear?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I spoke about centralized and decentralization. So we'll go quickly and look at those advantages and whatever the characteristics of these organizations are. So centralized decisions are taken by top level people because they are supposed to be knowing everything. They have the experience and expertise. Lower level people, they don't have the knowledge. They don't have the maturity levels or capability. And the strong control from the top is an effective means of coordinating the firm's actions because they have strong grip on what's going on. Decentralized decision making should be put in the hands of people closest to. Suppose I'm dealing with customers, I shouldn't be given the power to take decisions there, otherwise I'll lose my customer. So that works in decentralized structures. Those with decision making authority should be trained to exercise good judgment. It's not like I can do whatever, but I know exactly what's the limit, what's the policy, what's the guideline that I should follow, what are the do's and don'ts and norms that I should be aware of. A firm that draws on the combined intellectual capital. So decentralized organizations are involving a lot more people at all levels. So chief advantages in the centralized way, more accountability. We can point fingers and say you're responsible because you took all the decisions. Eliminates goal conflict and different perspectives because one person or few people are doing the decision making. So it's fast, and those are the advantages. Advantages of decentralized, it encourages employees because you're getting them to be part of the decision making process. It motivates them because they're doing something that's more meaningful or responsible. And because of decentralization, there's plenty of organic, generation of new ideas and innovation, and allows fast response if something is changing because it's decentralized. Imagine I'm in Abu Dhabi campus. I'm the assistant dean there. I know my students' problems there. I know the ministry requirements there. It would not make sense if my dean has to take all decisions which are concerning Abu Dhabi students. So it's me. And he gave me all that freedom. He said, you are there, you are my designee, and you have all the power to take whatever decisions that support our stakeholders, that support our students, experience, and that also make sure that we are not crossing the line on accreditation standards. I did that. That's decentralized. And when we go to the next one, disadvantages are there. So obviously, centralization takes a long time to respond to the markets. It does not encourage responsibility because you'll say, I don't take decisions. Don't ask me. Ask my boss. And discourages low like me. I'll be discouraged. If you're taking all my decisions, what am I here for? So I'll just follow instructions. Even if they are not good, I'll simply keep quiet. Decentralization also has its own disadvantage. Top management cannot have full control. And because of decentralization, something can go really wrong because you're trusting others, and can impair cross-unit collaboration because it will become difficult for you to transfer core competences or changes that you want to ensure. Or even as I was saying, even if you want a unified corporate culture, decentralization, too much of decentralization might not work. So that's what I said. You need to have the best strategic fit with structure. Otherwise, strategy will fail. The technology, strategy, leadership, and follower maturity all should be taken care of. So we also discussed this already. Make sure you can think of exploring strategic alliances, outsourcing those value chain activities that do not add value to you, that just drain resources, joint ventures because you just don't have time and you don't want the market opportunity to slip away. Cooperative partnerships, again, because you're not good in every technology, you might want to have these partnerships. We're done. We saw matching structure and strategy. I already explained that. Pick a design that matches your structure to strategy, and plenty of coordinating mechanisms, ERP, CRM. These are all coordinating mechanisms because these actually provide a comprehensive dashboard where we can look at what's happening, the flow of work, the flow of resources, the activities that are contributing to cost, ABC, activity-based costing. Look at what is contributing to the cost. Can we control those activities? And of course, institute collaborative networks and communication arrangements. So the goodwill that you can build, when you say networks, it could be with suppliers, it could be with your customers, it could be with the other agencies. So you can develop that in support of your organization structure. Right now, today we are having the stakeholders conference today at 6 o'clock. We're doing that. We're networking. We're bringing in industry partners, the executive council, advisory board members, alumni, students, faculty, staff. These many people are coming. I think it's about. I'm assuming we'll have 60 participating in today's stakeholders conference. And that's a classical example of, apart from the structure that we have, we're also building that strong collaborative network that supports our existing organization structure while implementing strategy. Okay. So we're done for the class. I'll be happy to take questions and answer. If you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer it.